In our continuing program, we will hear from the founding director of the Consulting and Business Development Center, Michael Verschow. In addition to his role as director, Michael is also a lecturer in the marketing department at the Foster School of Business. The Consulting and Business Development Center accelerates the growth of minority-owned and women-owned companies by engaging business students in consulting projects. Michael has received numerous awards for his work with small businesses. He is the co-author of 3 studies of African American businesses in Washington State and 2 studies of minority-owned businesses in clean tech. A Rotarian since 2004, please give your warmest Seattle 4 welcome to one of our own, Michael Verschow.
Well, thank you, President Kim. This is in my way. I can't see everybody. I'll try to duck around. Hi, Larry. Thank you so much for being one of the first Rotarians to work with us. It was really an amazing thing. As Patricia and Gabriella mentioned, over the last 25 years, we've had more than 300 members of this club working with hundreds, if not more than 1,000 of our students. Neal Mcdonald gets a big shout out as well. Back when we were beginning, Neal was the chair of our board. He approached Dick Swanson, who is chair of the service committee, as Gabriella mentioned, and from there, everything else has flown. 25 years ago when we began, our wildest dream was that every year we could have maybe 10 teams of students working with small businesses in underserved communities here in Seattle. Because of our partnership with you all, we have now every year 30 teams of business school students working with 30 companies in underserved communities here in Seattle. We have more than a dozen faculty teaching business classes, some to employees of ag industry businesses in Yakima, and then to minority and women-owned businesses here and across the country. In the last 5 years alone, because of the work that we've done with you all, we've helped companies generate more than $100 million worth of new revenues and support nearly 50,000 jobs in the state of Washington. And we've now taken this work nationally. Through a program that we call Ascend, we're building entrepreneurial support ecosystems in 16 cities across the U.S. So all around creating environments where businesses owned by people of color, women, veterans, others in underserved communities can grow and thrive. So from LA to New York, from Atlanta to Minneapolis, the work that we began here with this club is having an impact on communities of color, women-owned businesses across the country. And for that, I can't thank you all enough. But enough from me. Now I want to hear from some of the business owners that we've worked with and some of our alums as well. So I'm going to shift over here. With us to my immediate left, your right, Vincent Lana is the founder and CEO of Gibraltar Gibraltar Living Solutions. Far left, Ephraim Fasaha is the founder and owner of Boon Boona Coffee in Renton. And in the middle, Taylor Shimizu, who you all know as a club member here. She's an account executive at Intersection Company. And the fun thing to know about Taylor from my perspective is that she was a student at the Consulting and Business Development Center, a graduate of the Foster School, and so the first one to make the full circle from being a student to now being a mentor with us. So thank you. So Vincent, we're going to start with you. So I love your company for a lot of reasons. But the reason I love it the most is you started out with providing senior living for people who have memory loss issues, right? But now you've really grown and built on that. And I'm wondering, you're an entrepreneur, how did you grow your business? What steps did you take?
Well, first, thank you very much for Seattle 4 for inviting us out to speak. And in 2011, we had this crazy idea of going into senior housing. I had already been in senior housing before, and I had worked for a not-for-profit organization. And it had always been a dream of mine to own an assisted living facility and to grow that company. So in 2011, we had the opportunity to acquire a facility in Tacoma. This facility was not performing very well and had a lot of challenges. And it was probably one of the most unique things about this facility is that it was for mental health. And one of the unique things about mental health is kind of like if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. If you can make it in mental health, you can make it in anything. So we underwent the challenge, and we got the facility, and we started growing it. Not without any trials and tribulations, but we were able to make the organization become financial within the first year, as well as grow revenues, as well as grow and offer a culture that is that's currently still being implemented. So a unique thing is that I'm a graduate of University of Washington. I went to grad school at University of Washington as well, but it had been several years since I had actually been in school. So I enrolled in the Business Development Collaborative in 2015 and took a variety of different classes, and then enrolled in the Minority Development Program in 2016. And in 2017, enrolled in the Consulting and Business Development Center, utilizing students. And I see Terry back there, that he was part of that consulting team from Rotary that was on our team. And in 2019, we had another round of students. So that's kind of a long way of getting to the answer, but we utilize every one of those classes, every one of those components of those classes to help us grow, because now we have a vertical integration within our organization. We now call ourselves Gibraltar Business Group, where we now have not only an assisted living facility, we're also in the process of acquiring another assisted living facility over in Eastern Washington and converting it into a memory care facility. But we also started and purchased a scrub store, uniform store, because we needed our employees needed something to wear, because we got tired of looking at people coming to work looking any type of way. So, and plus, it adds to the value of it for our organization. And then we also utilize the financials that we looked at to see, okay, well, how can we streamline processes for us and do some more vertical integration? And that led to a medical supply company, and we opened up a new medical supply company last year. So now we're supplying all of our equipment, we're supplying all of our attire, scrubs, uniform, and we're keeping that dollar circulating within our own company, and we could not have done that without the support of the consulting program.
So follow-up question. The equipment company and the clothing company, do you sell just to your senior living facilities, or is that available to others?
It is available for others. We recently went through and received our certification for Medicare, and now that opens us up to provide that service, that care, to anyone within our area. So we can. Our reach is very broad, and as well as we are planning to acquire another scrub store in Everett as well. So that will allow us to reach even further, so that we can meet our goals and objectives for the upcoming years.
Great, thanks. So one of the things we talk about, Taylor, at the Consulting and Business Development Center is accelerating student careers. And we heard from Patricia, who's a student now, but her career hasn't accelerated yet, right? Because she's still in school, soon to be accelerated. But could you reflect back a little bit on your experience with the center, and then how that translated into the early stages of your career?
Yeah, so for me, as a student, I started with the Consulting Center right when I was a freshman, when I was 18 at UW. And so I started with it was at the time, it was called the Business Impact Group, is what we ended up calling it. I don't know what it's called now, but something similar to it.
We change names every 3 years. We need some help with marketing and branding.
It was like the Business Economic Development Center leadership team for a while too. But I started there as a freshman. It caught my eye at like the Foster School like career fair with all the clubs. So I started there. So I actually have been consulting with, I think, over 9 different companies while I was at school, all my 4 years. But the class is specifically, it's Marketing 445, and I tell all of my little mentees that I have now to take it because it was the most important class that I took at UW. And it was the most important class I took because of many reasons, because you actually got real world experience. So the company that I had the pleasure of working with was called the Northwest Mountain Supplier Diversity Council. So they help pretty much certify all these minority owned businesses. And so actually Nyasha, and I know he's somewhere out there, over there, he was my Rotary mentor, and he's the reason why, a big reason why I ended up joining Rotary too. I never knew Rotary existed until I came here to one of the meetings as a student. So that was another incredible connection, but my actual experience was doing a lot of like marketing planning, and I already knew I wanted to do sales and marketing after school, so it was perfect fit. But with some of the other companies I worked with, we did like financial planning, how to brand for their business. There's so many different aspects to what a new company has to go through, and so it was really incredible going through those moments with them. And as a student, as someone who was 19, 20 years old at the time, you don't really feel like your opinion matters that much to business people because you're so young. And so at that time, and what this program gives us students is that you have all the confidence in the world. You have another perspective that no one really has, or a lot of business people think you have to be kind of at their level to understand things. But no, we have it as younger people that we can develop a different plan of attack. So it's just different perspectives. And as I've gotten older and into my career, so I'm in sales and marketing, which is crazy to think because most people don't really go into careers that they first started at or went to school with. But coming from the sales program, it was another incredible journey. So I started with Microsoft, of all people, not doing anything sales related. And then I realized I wanted to go back into media sales. And then I got a job with King 5, and now I'm an account executive with Intersection. So we do all the advertising for the buses and the light rail. So you see all my ads all over the city. So thanks for tuning into those. But with the consulting center, I've learned so much in how to interact with clients and how to speak to clients on a different level, how to be in the room and have a seat at the table has been incredible. And I've been given a lot of opportunities because of all this experience. I mean, if I didn't have this real world experience, I don't think I'd be anywhere where I am today without it.
Talk more about that being at the table.
So having a seat at the table, it's still a skill that I'm still learning to do as a woman, as a minority woman as well. It's definitely very hard. In today's society, it's become a little easier just because the world is changing. But when I was 18, it was really hard to kind of find your own voice, to say, oh, I actually have an opinion, on something of matter, and to voice that at the table. And so part of this program, what it does, it allows students to have that voice and to really interact with people of high caliber. I mean, you're interacting with CEOs of companies. They're not like, yes, they are ordinary, everyday people that we interact with every day, but this program gives you access to that and opportunities that you would never have without it.
Great, thank you. Ephraim, so back in January, just about a month ago, I had the great pleasure and honor of come down to your one-year anniversary of your store in Renton at Boon Boona. And so, again, that was just an amazing event, and I think it was my first time there because I kept hearing things from students in Renton, and I'd known you, but I'd never been to your place. And man, what a place you got in downtown Renton. But I guess you started a coffee company in Starbucks' hometown.
Yeah.
So one, were you crazy?
Yeah.
But two, what did you learn from doing that?
That's actually funny that you say that because that is the reason I got rejected in 2011 when I first pitched the idea. It was really funny because we're actually inside of a Starbucks when I was pitching it to some bakers, and it was really bold of me. But they said, how are you going to compete against Starbucks? And that wasn't the expectation. That wasn't where I was looking at it from. I had worked in corporate finance for 14 years, and I hopefully don't look it, but 14 years in corporate finance, and within that space, you learn a tremendous amount about, profitability of a business and what you need to do and levers that you can move. But I really felt a sense of emptiness in that space where I was really looking at, how can I do it from a more socially conscious perspective? Not that those companies necessarily weren't, but I thought that there could be more done in that space. I took a trip to East Africa. I went to Eritrea and came back inspired. And I applied two things. One was the experience that I had in finance, but then also this newfound passion in coffee. And my focus became just hard on that. And for 2-3 months, all I did was work on my business plan, my financial plan, and get everything, as perfect as possible before I got rejected. But really, the rejection really helped me pivot. And when I pivoted, then I started looking at what I would do to create that business and create what it is that I have now. Really was two factors. One was sourcing from Africa, because of all the coffee developing nations, Africa, or continent, and I do a good job of making sure that I identify continent and not country, because it's so important, because the continent of Africa, many of the countries are now starting to get into coffee development. But Ethiopia being the birthplace of coffee, it is fourth in exporting it, and also in the development of how it's situated there in comparison to other countries such as Brazil and Colombia. I thought there was so much opportunity. And so I was really focused on Africa becoming the continent in which I was going to focus in when it came to coffee and how I was going to source there. So it was about how I sourced, and then two, in the spaces that I was in, so now in Renton, creating a community space, nurturing other small businesses, creating an opportunity for us to learn a little bit more about this beverage that we consume. So it was always a two-pronged approach, one being how we source, two, what we do within that space that we're in, and then in the middle of it all, great coffee. So, and actually we get quite a bit of folks from Starbucks Reserve coming and hanging out with us, and they're pretty impressed too. So it's funny to see this whole full circle, and it's been a 7-8 year journey now to this point.
Vincent, when Ephraim talked about the rejection, I saw you nodding your head. I was wondering, what were you thinking at that point?
Well, I was thinking about our journey and the number of times in which I've sat in front of investors and individuals and financial institutions, which shall be unnamed, and have felt that rejection before. Even though you have experience, you have great credit scores, but sometimes, it's called the skin in the game. Sometimes you may be lacking on some of those fronts. And I am so grateful, just like Ephraim, for those rejections, because they have inspired me, they have made me grow and think differently and changed my approach to looking at financing, especially financing for various acquisitions. Because some of the classes that we took in the programs, one was called financial forecasting, and those steps help you realize what financial institutions are looking for in your financials, your balance sheets, your various ratios. So it helps you minimize those letters that you get from those conversations that you have. But I am appreciative of all of those rejections, because I keep a little folder in my drawer, and I look at it every once in a while and say, hey, you know what? Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. And it just motivates me, and helps us, like you said, pivot and make sure that you're doing what's right. You're doing what can help you grow, and not necessarily taking it personal, but just making sure that you can utilize that and help you grow your organization. And it helps you become more prepared when you are having those conversations. So that's the biggest thing. Helps you become very, very prepared when you're having those conversations with financial institutions.
Taylor, I saw a lot of nodding of your head when he was talking about overcoming obstacles. Again, same question. What was going through your head at that point?
Oh, okay, there it is. For me, overcoming obstacles has been everything in my entire life. Oh, is that one better? Okay. I didn't get into the business school twice. I got rejected twice, and it was literally
Oops.
the worst thing in the world. I thought my life was ending. Like, I thought that was the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. And going through those rejections was the most helpful thing in the world because it led me to the sales program. It led me to lean on the consulting center because I had already made those connections earlier on when I was a student, and it gave me more confidence to just prove them all wrong, you know? And I think for me, as a mentor now to a lot of the sales students, I just met with one yesterday, you know, one of the things I was telling him is that you have all these obstacles in your life for a reason. They're trying to make you, you know, see what else you can do and prove yourself, you know, more and more. And so, you know, you have to have these obstacles in life. And yes, I don't have a business. Well, I guess I kind of do since I'm selling advertising is a business basically. But, you know, I get told no every single day. And it's actually like, sometimes it's refreshing to hear a yes now. But, you get taught that. It's ingrained in you to kind of learn how to overcome those obstacles and then the objections. And it's, again, part of the sales process, but also part of life is to overcome, you know, lots of obstacles. So that's kind of what I was thinking.
So, Ephraim, you have a business degree.
Yeah. Yes.
You 14 years in corporate finance.
Yeah.
You're working towards an MBA.
I am. Yeah.
Why do you need the consulting and business development side? I mean, what? And I guess what I'm getting at is there something unique that comes out of this experience that doesn't come out of other experiences that has helped shape you as a business owner?
Oh, 100%. I think initially when I was, you know, getting ready to open up, expand the business, you know, I was really honest with myself and said that, you know, I definitely have areas that I'm really good at, but then there's a lot of areas where I'm really poor at. And I need to get advice, I need to get guidance, I need to learn. And so it was really a crapshoot. I didn't expect to get into my MBA program, but it just so worked out. And it was, the timing was impeccable. It was the same day I opened up the cafe. So I had to email my professor, I'm not gonna be in class today. But the same week I also started my first program with UW, which was Ascend. And it was incredible as I was going through my first quarter with the business, with my MBA and UW, because my MBA is at Seattle University.
Great school, good
Great
school.
school, great school.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was looking to get answers to things that I could apply immediately. I knew that I was going to make decisions every day, and that those decisions, especially in my first year, would have me fold or grow. And if I wasn't gonna seek out the guidance and get the advice that I needed to, I would be in a real bad space. That's what I gained from those programs. So Ascend was the first one, Minority Business Executive Program, and now the consulting program. And I've been fortunate. I've actually kind of put a pause at least on one quarter of my MBA program so that I could focus more attention on these programs because what I gain from them are really applicable. I'm fortunate enough to have other small business owners that I can network with. Some are just starting, some are getting acquired or acquiring other businesses, some are starting to expand into other territories. There is a lot that I can learn from those individuals in that classroom. Additionally, from the professors that come in, honestly, Dean Bradford was incredible and has become a mentor for me. And that came via University of Washington. And honestly, these things have just been incredible. Yeah.
Well, and part of what you point to, right, is research that Dean Bradford has done has shown that business education while you're running a business has a bigger impact on success of an entrepreneur than business education prior to that. For exactly that same reason that you were talking about, right? That it's that I need something tomorrow,
Yep.
right? And I've got to make some decisions tomorrow, and I can't wait the 10 weeks or the 15 weeks to get through a quarter or a semester to figure out what that answer is. So I think that's a living example.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I mean, honestly, the challenges that I was finding, especially in the first months of opening, because I now had 15 employees, and I was like, what am I supposed to do here? And honestly, I could find someone in my program that I could reach out to and get that guidance, whether it was someone that was a peer to me or another professor. So it was incredible.
Well, I could go on. I mean, I love talking with you all, but I don't want to be selfish. I want to let folks from the club here ask some questions. So Brad's got one mic.
Anybody?
Yeah, from being a finance guy, you said you found that you had other things to learn. Specifically, was it in other disciplines that you found help in marketing or other areas other than finance, I trust?
Oh yeah, it was legal, legal, HR. Those were key things that I quickly had to seek advice for. So I started spending a lot more time asking those types of questions, finding advisors that could really provide those answers, and it came really quick too, because something like I had never worked in a position where I'd earn a tip, so taxation on tips, how is that? How do you apply that, or what are you supposed to do in that situation? I didn't even think that would be something that would be taxed, but everything's taxed. So, so I had to learn these things, and I had to get those answers immediately. And from tax to HR to legal, marketing was also another area as well. And it just kind of continued on, and there's still new areas that I'm kind of exploring now. I guess as they're passing that out, I want to say thank you also. I didn't say thank you. I wanted to say specifically thank you for University of Washington, but then additionally, it came up, like it was about a day or two ago that I realized that my senior year in high school, my counselor came up to me and said, Ephraim, you should apply for a scholarship. And I was like, sure, what do I got to do? Just write a few pages. I was like, all right. Submitted it back to my advisor. And then a few weeks later, she tells me, hey, you've been awarded. I was like, oh, really? What did I get? It's like a few $1,000s from the Rotary Club. I was like, what? Who's the Rotary Club? Seattle Rotary. And then we came to the Westin Hotel, had dinner. I got a scholarship for my undergrad. This is 20 years ago. But it's amazing to see this full circle, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It really did come in and help out when I was undergrad, so thank you very much. Didn't want to let that slip.
Oh, thank you. I just had a quick question for those in the room that might want to, one, be a mentor, two, have a business that might benefit from this. How do they do both of those tracks? It wasn't a plan either.
So Bill and Terry, please stand up. All right. So Bill is chair of the Rotary Mentors Committee. So grab him. And it's also just let's have all the current mentors please stand, just so we can see. So you can all the current mentors please stand. There we go. All right, so just grab one of them. And then in terms of a company, so as was mentioned, I'm a member of the club here. Call me, email me, but my email is always the best. So it's mverchot@uw.edu, or grab me right afterwards. But that's the best way to do it.
I'm just wondering how the emergence of YouTube and social media channels for learning about things has changed your educational processes and your work.
Is that for me, or can I duck that question? Yeah. So for us, right? I mean, the Foster School, we started, 2 years ago, a hybrid MBA program, right? So we'd resisted sort of distance learning for years because we know that in a classroom environment, there are some unique things that happen, especially when we're teaching sort of leadership and management issues, right? And so we cast around for a number of years, but this hybrid MBA model seems to work really well for us. But so from an educational delivery mechanism, again, what you can learn through a YouTube video tends to be more tactical than it is strategic. And so when again, but this gets back to what Ephraim was talking about, right? When you're getting a degree, right, undergrad or MBA, it tends to be more strategic and longer term. I'd be interested from you all as business people, right? I mean, do you look for online sort of tools for things?
As a matter of fact, one of the things in healthcare, especially when assisted living, we have to do certain CUs, continuing education units, on a yearly basis, like 12 CUs. And part of the classes they're basically YouTube classes that we have to use. We have a curriculum and we are certified in doing it, but we also utilize YouTube for all those classes. And that's helped. For example, dementia training is on YouTube. Also other ones. So mental health is on YouTube as well. So we definitely utilize those, and it's really been helpful for us to reach our goals and objectives of meeting those continuing education.
So it's my goal to make sure that Ken doesn't have a heart attack. We got time for one question and one quick answer.
One quick question.
Michael, you touched on this briefly about expanding this program beyond the state of Washington. You might comment just briefly that why did J.P. Morgan Chase decide to get behind this and push it out across the nation?
Yeah. So this Ascend network that I mentioned in 16 cities, J.P. Morgan Chase, and largely through Phyllis Campbell, who we all know in this room, they were looking at how do we first of all, how do we start closing the wealth gap, right? When you look at the median family net worth of African American and Latino families compared to white families, there's significant gaps. We knew from the research that we had done that it was successful entrepreneurship is the fastest way to build wealth, regardless of race, ethnicity, gender of the owner. So as Chase was looking for solutions to this bigger problem, through Phyllis, they found us, and they saw the results that we were able to produce for businesses with mentors and with classes. And so they said, okay, let's try to invest in creating those ecosystems that improve management education, access to markets, so contracts, and access to money, loans, and investments. And that's what we're blowing out across the country.